Good evening, and thank you for joining me for another Antinomian Audiobooks podcast. This evening, I will be reading from Miguel Serrano and the Black Sun, 1978 to 2005. O sun of gold that reflects the black sun, O black sun that hides the ray of green light, withdraw your luminous shadow, rend your veils, so that I may see the hidden face, veiled by your disk, by the revolving of your swastika, because the one who is hidden there is I myself. Serrano, 1984. Miguel Joaquin Diego del Carmen Serrano Fernandez, better known by his pen name of Miguel Serrano, was born on September 10, 1917, to a distinguished family in Santiago, Chile. Although he embraced Marxism as a youth, Serrano quickly became disillusioned with the left and in 1938 found himself drawn to the Movimiento Nacional Socialista de Chile, National Socialist Movement of Chile, following a large-scale massacre of many of its members during a failed coup. In July 1939, he began writing for its journal Trabajo, Work. From July 1941 to January 1943, Serrano published his own bi-weekly political and literary review called La Nueva Edad, The New Age. Although initially indifferent to anti-Semitism, he soon began reprinting excerpts from the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. Serrano later transmuted the Jewish world conspiracy into a much more dire metaphysical threat, following in the tradition of the Gnostic Cathars by identifying Jehovah with the principle of evil, the demiurge, lord of darkness and shadows, as well as ruler over our fallen planet. In February 1942, Serrano was initiated into a Chilean esoteric order which gave allegiance to a mysterious and far-flung Brahmin elite centered in the Himalayas. The order practiced ritual magic, tantric and kundalini yoga linked to Nietzschean concepts of the will to power and fascist activism. Members regarded Adolf Hitler as a savior of the Indo-European or Aryan race. The order considered astral travel and higher states of awareness as the natural ancestral heritage of all Aryans. The order's master described Hitler as a bodhisattva who had voluntarily incarnated on Earth in order to overcome the Kali Yuga. He also claimed to have been in astral contact with Hitler and to have received, quote, sure evidence that he was alive and had survived the Berlin bunker. These revelations, combined with rampant post-war speculation in the South American media that Hitler had escaped to uncharted regions, prompted Serrano, in his role as a journalist, to accompany a Chilean military expedition to Antarctica in 1947-48 on the frigate Covadonga. One of the massifs which he explored there bears his name to this day. During this trip, Serrano was engrossed in reading psychoanalyst Carl Gustav Jung's essay, The Relations Between the Ego and the Unconscious, 1928, concluding that it outlined a path of initiation similar to that of Kundalini Yoga. The stark, lonely polar wastes made a permanent impression on Serrano's mind, and he came to view Antarctica as a realm of archetypes. Serrano would also later claim that the doctrine of esoteric Hitlerism was revealed to him during an Antarctic encounter with a disk of uncreated light. Serrano's first trip to Europe came in 1951 as part of a delegation of Chilean journalists to a World Press Conference in Evian, France. Obsessed by the enigmatic figure of Hitler, Serrano visited and brooded over several sites venerated by post-war National Socialists: the ruins of the Berlin Bunker, Spandau Prison, and the ruins of Hitler's Berghof at Berchtesgaden in Bavaria. While staying in Switzerland, he befriended both Hermann Hesse, the Nobel Prize-winning writer, and Carl Gustav Jung. Jung's pre-war psychoanalytical appraisal of Hitler as a, quote, spiritual vessel, a demi-divinity, a myth, and the embodiment of the, quote, collective unconscious of his race, greatly influenced Serrano's worldview. He and Jung passionately debated the meaning and importance of mythology and archetypes in the modern age of dehumanizing mass technocracy. Serrano chronicled these encounters with Hesse and Jung in his most famous book, C.G. Jung and Hermann Hesse, a record of two friendships, 1968. In 1951, following a well-established family tradition, Serrano entered the Chilean diplomatic corps and held various ambassadorial posts over the course of several different administrations: India, 1953-62, Yugoslavia, 1962-64, Romania, Bulgaria, and Austria, 1964-70. While in India, Serrano immersed himself in its spiritual heritage and sought out the secret order of his Chilean master at Mount Kailas in the Himalayas. Unable to travel there since it was in Chinese-occupied Tibet, Serrano claimed that he had nevertheless discovered the inner aspect of Mount Kailash. He also met many leading Indian personalities through his diplomatic position, becoming a personal friend of Jawaharlal Nehru, Indira Gandhi, V.K. Krishna Menon, and the Dalai Lama. In fact, Serrano was the only Westerner to welcome the Dalai Lama in the Himalayas following his escape from Chinese-occupied Tibet in 1959. Serrano was eventually dismissed from the Chilean diplomatic service in 1970 by President Salvador Allende. He chose to remain in exile and rented an apartment previously inhabited by Hermann Hesse at Montagnola, Switzerland. During his final ambassadorial postings in Vienna and subsequent exile in Switzerland, Serrano befriended a number of famous National Socialists and their supporters, including Léon Degrelle, Otto Skorzeny, Hans Ulrich Rudel, Marc Augier, French author who wrote under the pen name Saint-Loup, Ernst Zundel, Hannah Reich, Julius Evola, Hermann Wirth, Wilhelm Landig, and Ezra Pound. Serrano returned to Chile weeks after the September 1973 coup led by Augusto Pinochet and other generals that removed President Allende from power. He remained shut out of the Chilean public service, however, due to his adherence to an extremist ideology. Over the remaining years of his life, Serrano wrote his most influential works on esoteric Hitlerism, augmenting his role as a philosopher with public demonstrations of his continued commitment to National Socialism. In May 1984, Serrano gave the Hitler salute at the funeral in Santiago of SS Standartenführer Walter Rauff. He convened a rally in Santiago on September 5, 1993, in honor of Rudolf Hess and in memory of the 62 young Chilean National Socialists who were killed during the abortive 1938 coup. Up until the time of his death on February 28, 2009, Serrano maintained correspondence with a number of esoterically oriented National Socialist organizations throughout the world. Serrano's burial ceremony on March 2nd, 2009 at the General Cemetery in Santiago, Chile, was attended by a large group of his followers and drew worldwide press attention. Serrano was a prolific writer throughout his adult years and published some 40 books of esoteric and political theory, as well as a 4-volume autobiography, Memorias de Él y Yo, Memories of He and I, 1996 to 1999. The most important publications for our purposes are the following. 1969, La Flor Inexistente, The Ultimate Flower. 1972, El Ella, Book of Magic Love. 1978, El Cordón Dorado, Hitlerismo Esoterico, The Golden Thread, Esoteric Hitlerism Trilogy, Part 1. 1980, Nos, Libro de la Resurrección, Book of the Resurrection, Nos. Adolf Hitler, 1984, Adolf Hitler, El Ultimo Avatara, Adolf Hitler, The Ultimate Avatar, Esoteric Hitlerism Trilogy, Part 2. 1986, La Resurrección del Héros, The Resurrection of the Hero. 1991, Manu por el hombre que vendrá, Manu for the man that comes, Esoteric Hitlerism Trilogy, Part 3. 1993, Los ovnis de Hitler contra el nuevo orden mundial, The UFOs of Hitler against the New World Order. 2003, El Hijo del Viudo, Son of the Widower. 2005, Maya, La realidad es una ilusión. Maya, reality is an illusion. Serrano's esoteric Hitlerism is a singularly dense, arcane, anti-modernist, neo-Gnostic poetic philosophy derived from a complex fusion of Hindu Vedic traditions, especially yoga, tantra, and the importance of the chakras. A dizzying array of elements from Northern and Western European traditions, elaborate esoteric and mythological symbolism, Ariosophy, the Jungian theory of collective racial archetypes, and National Socialist symbolism. It is a nearly phantasmagorical worldview that defies easy summary. Serrano claims to elucidate the extraterrestrial origin of the Hyperborean-descended Aryans, image-bearers of the Godhead, and postulates a global conspiracy against them by an evil inferior demigod, the demiurge, Jehovah, an extraterrestrial feeding on human flesh and blood. Worshipped by the Jews, Lord of planet Earth, spawner of the primitive hominid stocks, non-whites, and author of all base materiality. The world as we know it is a combat zone between the dwindling Hyperboreans and the demiurge and his forces of entropy. But Serrano claims that the Golden Age can be restored if the Hyperboreans' descendants, the Aryans, consciously re-purify their blood to restore the divine blood memory. Heinrich Himmler's exoteric outer SS may have lost World War II, but the esoteric inner SS was still fighting the metaphysical war against the Jews. Adolf Hitler is an avatar, a divine incarnation who will reappear as the end times ruler at the head of his last battalion in a final apocalyptic battle to destroy the demiurge and his minions. Adolf Hitler comes to win, rule, and judge. Author Alex Kurtagic has noted that he, quote, can well imagine this, under the right circumstances, becoming a religious text in a distant post-apocalyptic future, read, interpreted, and reinterpreted by mystics and monastic scholars. Esoteric National Socialists have been journeying down that path already for several decades. Serrano has been widely respected among worldwide National Socialist communities since the first appearance of the Golden Thread. His Esoteric Hitlerism trilogy was quickly translated and published in German. It has exerted a considerable influence on German National Socialists ever since. Although Serrano's trilogy has yet to be translated and published in English, the core ideas of these works are nevertheless readily available to the English-only reader. What has been largely unrecognized by many is the fact that Serrano's earlier works available in English, The Ultimate Flower and El Ella, Book of Magic Love, Nos, Book of the Resurrection, provide a complete exposition of his philosophical and esoteric views, stripped of any National Socialist trappings. In many instances, these works, especially Nos, offer a more lucid explanation of some of the more difficult concepts explored at length in the trilogy. Serrano's last two booklets really, provide a coda to his life's work. The Son of the Widower is a synthesis exploring esoteric Christianity, esoteric Islam, and esotericism in the German SS. Maya, Reality is an Illusion, is little more than an addendum providing further information on topics of importance to esoteric Hitlerism. Questions have arisen concerning the possible influence of other authors on Serrano's formulation of esoteric Hitlerism. The first person usually mentioned in this regard is fellow esoteric National Socialist and author Savitri Devi. See Chapter 37. Serrano and Devi engaged in a limited correspondence beginning in 1980, which is useful in clarifying the question concerning any possible cross-pollination of their philosophies, consisting of 3 letters only, archived at www.savitridevi.org. It is clear that prior to 1980, Devi had not read any of Serrano's writings, and thus he could not have had any influence on the development of her version of esoteric Hitlerism. Serrano, on the other hand, did acknowledge Devi's The Lightning and the Sun in the bibliography to the first volume of his trilogy. The remaining 2 volumes of the trilogy do not possess bibliographies. Nevertheless, there appears to be little evidence of any significant influence by Devi on Serrano's work, beyond confirming ideas that he had already held true for a number of years, e.g. recognizing Adolf Hitler as an avatar who battles against the demonic materialistic hosts of the Kali Yuga. The Lightning and the Sun was first published in 1958, some 16 years after Serrano began his involvement with a Chilean esoteric group that espoused many of the concepts to be found in Devi's work. Nonetheless, Serrano has praised Devi in print for being the first to openly promulgate Adolf Hitler's status as an avatar. In stark contrast, Serrano's account of visitations by our semi-divine extraterrestrial ancestors and his history of the Hyperborean race and its settlement of the polar region and subsequent migrations owe a large debt to Robert Charroux' writings, see Chapter 40. Throughout both Legacy of the Gods, 1965, and Masters of the World, 1967, Charroux explores the extraterrestrial origin of the ancient Hyperboreans, their eternal enmity with the Jews, and the importance of Venus and the Black Sun. Charroux also speculates on the nature of the Tula Society and the presence within it of National Socialists prior to the Second World War. Serrano appears to have first encountered Charroux' books while exiled to Switzerland in the 1970s, and he specifically credits them in the biography of The Golden Thread. It was also around this time, according to Serrano, that he was introduced to Louis Pauwels and Jacques Berger's seminal work Le Matin des Magiciens, The Morning of the Magicians, 1960. This led him to explore the writings of Otto Rahn and Saint-Loup on the Grail, Montségur, and the Cathars, and exerted a profound influence on his eventual formulation of esoteric Hitlerism. Where the symbolism of the swastika itself is concerned, Serrano clearly owes a debt to French historian André Brissot. See chapter 41. Finally, although he is not directly acknowledged in any of Serrano's writings, it is safe to assume that the Austrian SS veteran and esotericist Wilhelm Landig, and by extension Rudolf Mund, see chapters 44 and 34 respectively, played a key role in introducing Serrano to the symbolism of the golden sun, black sun, during his Swiss exile in the early 1970s. There is no mention of the black sun in any of Serrano's writings prior to the 1978 publication of The Golden Thread. Ultimately, Serrano would take the black sun to metaphorical places that Landig et al. Could not have imagined through his inclusion of it in his well-nigh labyrinthine philosophy of esoteric Hitlerism. The popularity of his trilogy among post-war German National Socialists has undoubtedly played a vital role in the promotion and circulation of the Black Sun concept in that community since the late 1970s. As will be demonstrated in the review of his texts that follow, Serrano was also the first writer to imply that the sunwheel inlay on the floor of the Obergruppenführersaal, Upper Group Leaders Hall, in the North Tower of Wewelsburg Castle symbolized the black sun. Note, the following texts are only a representative portion of Serrano's writings on the black sun. His work tends to be repetitious, and many of the black sun references are merely incantatory in nature, containing little information about the origin and/or nature of the symbol. To have presented all of Serrano's references to the black sun would have been a disservice to readers trying to mentally navigate this difficult terrain. A judicious selection by the editor of the key texts for inclusion in the current volume was an unavoidable practical necessity. Ultimately, a true appreciation of the daunting complexity of Serrano's work can only be gained by reading them in their entirety. Excerpts from El Cordón Dorado, Hitlerismo Esotérico, 1978. Time passed. From the sky poured a somber, enveloping rain. The tentacles of the victor moved out to blanket the seas, cities, and continents. By hate and revenge, a carefully prepared plan of insidious lies concentrated on the education of the youth, including even the soul of children and adults, as well as the terror of hunger, persecution, torture, material and moral emergencies, prevented the heroic climate, the solar grandeur, the value of the transparent light, the luciferic beauty, the grail, the emerald of Hermes, the morning star, the black sun from behind the golden sun, the green ray from behind the black sun. All is dead now on the surface of the earth. The blood and valor have died. John Dee affirmed that the earth is not round, but flattened at the poles, that there exists a non-Euclidean mathematics, and that the earth is not solid, but consists of superimposed spheres which have the ability to associate with one another. In an audience before Queen Elizabeth of England, he insisted that Greenland should be seized because it would grant access to a parallel universe, as we would say today. John Dee also knew that in America existed the secret West, that it was the continent of the other light, a light which is born from the death of the physical and visible sun's light, perhaps the light of the black sun, or perhaps the green ray, the herald of the morning star. Few living have penetrated the legendary archetypes to the ultimate fire, even to the ultimate existential consequences, by re-experiencing the drama in the flesh, undergoing the ordeal by fire in their own flesh, except for a few exceptions. To this group probably belongs Pedro Sarmiento de Gamboa, and perhaps some other Spanish alchemists that have come here, the Americas, looking for the drinkable gold, aurum potabile, which, if drunk, grants immortality. In the secret West, where the perceptible physical light of the golden sun wanes, and the spiritual light of the black sun and the green ray is born. In the church of Santo Milagro in Piedra Fita del Cebrero, one can view a grail which is said was formerly in San Juan de la Peña, and next to which may be seen a recently attached inscription mentioning Parzival and Wagner. There the blood of the blue beings of Hyperborea is symbolically drunk. The grail is green with the color of the ray behind the black sun. If one chooses to tarry at the Benedictine monastery of Samos, it is discovered that this name is Germanic Visigothic and derived from Samanos, which itself originates from Sanskrit, as does the word samadhi, that it means with the primordial being, with the great Hyperborean ancestor in this case. And thus everything goes because Beo Gran is also Wotan, and the Pico Sacro is the Elbrus of the West. In any case, the secret operation of the discovery of the Americas signified a real crusade against the white gods, a true crusade against the Grail, to use the title of the book written by Otto Rahn concerning the tragedy of the Cathars. All traces and all knowledge of the ruins, the secrets, and the wise sayings of the white gods were destroyed by Catholic monks directed from the center of world Judaism, the Vatican in Rome. Every trace of the divine Venusian origin of our ancient planetary history was systematically made to disappear. Some Spanish conquerors, however, acted of their own accord, obedient to the memory of their Visigothic blood. Men such as Pedro Sarmiento de Gamboa, who was interested in magic and alchemy, the captain Cesar, from whom the city takes its name, and others who lost their lives in the search for the enchanted cities, Elelin, Trapalnanda, Paititi, El Dorado. For them, the conquest of America was an operation of secret alchemy, an opus alchemicum, and they were not here looking for physical gold, but for the aurum potabile, which, when drunk, grants eternal life, the black sun at polar midnight. That light which appears when the light of the physical sun expires, the golden sun which illuminates this second earth of the Kali Yuga. There is nothing more mysterious than blood. Paracelsus considered it to be a condensation of light. I believe that Aryan Hyperborean blood does not arise from the light of the golden sun, a galactic sun, but from the light of the black sun, from the green ray. It is not an archive of the Akashic light, but of another universe. The Akashic records belong to the enemy. If memory of this Hyperborean blood is obtained, the voice is awoken and the magic power vril recovered, thus destroying the cycle of the eternal return. Thus, the Aryans of the Indian Shastriya, the Brahmins, and the esoteric Hitlerists strive to retain the purity of their blood in order to remember better and triumph in the great battle. The same principle makes the Jews oppose the Aryans with their anti-blood. The Hyperborean race descended or fell down from outer space through a star, but the ancient traditions, legends, and myths refer to a battle that was realized outside of this world. Nicolas Berdyaev speaks of a prologue to Earth history, and even a legend of the Grail tells of a stone that fell from Lucifer's crown and shattered during this stellar combat, Autoran. Lucifer is thus one of the gods of the light of the black sun, his name signifying the most beautiful light, or more precisely, Lucibel, as he was called by the Cathars. He entered via the morning star, Venus, or Oyehu, as this star is called by the Orokenos. The falsifications which have found their way into the book of Genesis and Christianity in general present a completely distorted view of Lucifer. Also, I cannot accept in this context the Evolian view of the Titans, which makes Prometheus and Lucifer, like the giants of ancient times, appear to be the protagonists of a malevolent rebellion. In addition, there is a Hyperborean archetype, a god of the black sun, who is also chaos, a lord of the galactic darkness who tears everything into nothingness and who, in the parallel worlds, wages his great war against the children of the Hyperborean light. On the earth, he has accomplished his goals through his followers, primarily making use of the so-called defeat and fall. The defeat of the angels that fell in love with the daughters of man, the animal man, the exclusively terrestrial being. It is the original sin, a racial sin. If you let yourself go, if you don't rebel at the threshold of that death, you are revived. But first you must die, you must descend into death, into the loss of physical consciousness, in order to wake up with another consciousness in your astral body. It is like the transition from the gold sun to the black sun, to traverse a black hole in order to exist again after that mystical death in another light, perhaps of a green color, in the green ray. This is the mystical death of the ancient mysteries and of the initiations. In this way, Aryans are the twice born, that is to say, the initiates, those who have died here voluntarily and no longer die a natural physical death, because then they live in their astral body. Oasis of warm water in the ice, a white fire, a frozen fire, a cold and secret place in the center of the heart. To manage to stay implacable, calm, imperturbable in the midst of combat, without hatreds, resentments, judgments, prejudices, according to the Master, beyond passion, in the center of passion, distant and close, inside and outside, beyond the god of the cold and the storm. This is what it means to be a Hyperborean, to travel towards Hyperborea, to have found that unconquerable region, the terrestrial paradise, Paradacia, the black sun of midnight, the highest summit of the mountain of revelation, the Meli Moyu, the Kailash, the center point of the person, the one self. This is the resurrection of the Führer, of Wotan, of a god within us, in the Antarctic ice, in the mystic homeland of the South Pole. In pre-antiquity, the longing for nature was expressed in the cult of the light of the year and the sun, like the symbol of that nostalgia for a different sun, of that which is beyond the sun, the spiritual seed and light of another earth. Among those of Nordic Atlantean stock, this nostalgia was represented by means of schematic and magical signs, the runes. Nostalgia for the ancient sun, the black sun beyond the visible sun, allows one to sense the return of the man who is to come. The Vira extends his arms toward all sunsets, towards that sun beyond this sun. He is the man with arms upraised and extended outwards. The Hyperborean is that man who has lost the other sun and is hurling himself into the night abyss of this earth with his arms open and extended downwards. My giants within the mountain, the man rune and the death rune. When the light of the black sun is extinguished, the Vira takes refuge in the cavern mother to wait for the return, the renaissance, the resurrection of the ancient sun. Friedrich Barbarossa went to the cavern of Kyffhauserberg, and Hitler to a cavern in Tibet, or the Andes Mountains, or in the Antarctic ice. They fall asleep into a dream, into hibernation, guarded by the crows of Wotan, hoping that the light of the black sun will return, that the window of the cavern will open, permitting them to pronounce the new magical word, the new rune, that shatters the cycles of eternal return of the Brahmanic calendar. And the word becomes the Hagal rune, formed by a combination of the man rune of life and the Ir rune of death. Total man, the reborn one, the twice born, the Aryan. This rune already possessed the form of a hexagonal six-pointed star, which was stolen by the Jews. In reality, it is the morning star, which is also the evening star, Yepun and Oihu, the double star of Lucifer, Ermin, Wotan, Quetzalcoatl, the initiation star of the warriors, the aurora watchers, the dawn treaders, those who travel in the direction of Hyperborea, returning to encounter the black sun, like a continent submerged in the waters of their own soul. And when this happens, when the man is reborn, takes the Hagal rune and rotates it in reverse in the direction of Hyperborea, of the North Pole, that is the South Pole, it transforms into the swastika of esoteric Hitlerism. The black sun moving back towards the origin, the green ray, the black sun of the polar midnight. Then there's a diagram of the body with the, says Sol de Oro, Sol Negro, showing the chakras. Miguel Serrano's total man diagram illustrating the relationships among the traditional chakras: the golden sun, Sol de Oro; the black sun, Sol Negro; the black hole, Hoyo Negro; the green ray, Rayo Verde; and the El Ella Venus El Leal complex. Reproduced from Serrano, 1984. Quote, it was in Hitler's Third Reich where the Sonnenmenschen, the men of the Black Sun, could recover the lost body, the vril, the direct knowledge, and the memory of the blood. The Viros turned again into Divyas, constructed their astral body, their Sahu, their own Vimana, and with it started off for the recovered and unconquerable paradise of Asgard. After awakening the heart center, the Anahata chakra, by piercing it with a lance, the hero is given to die, risking its eye. When crossing by a black hole, by the black sun, the abyss. In the Sahasrara chakra, the crown of the Hyperborean king of Lucifer, which in esoteric Christianity becomes the crown of thorns, El and Ella were one. Sa-hum, I am you. There they were newly wed on the summit of Mount Meru, in the heights of Paradisha, in the palace of Midgard, in the weapon hall of the heroes and Valkyries in Valhalla. With their leap into the Shunya, into the abyss, into the black sun, they have become separated in order to be able to regain, as the absolute man and the absolute woman, the non-existence of the green ray, my non-existent flower, which always separates and unites, united in their separation. The mantra is Hum Sa, you are I, the inverse of Sa Hum. The other side of the mirror, beyond the spirit, in that which does not exist, in the green ray. Nos, the revived one with the square pupils, the resurrection of Balder. Because there once existed another light, an unchanging light, that of the ancient polar black sun, through which it is possible to leave, to jump toward the non-existent flower of the green ray. And this black sun is nothing but the door of Venus. It is Lucifer, the true guide of the return to Hyperborea at the other end, opposed to the Christ of the variable light of the new sun, of death and of dissolution. This is the conviction of the Aryan Hyperboreans, the faith of esoteric Hitlerism, the way of the soldiers of Wotan and the Führer, a retrograde pathway of transmutation of the Vira into Divya, and of the simultaneous transformation of the earth. The eagle which illustrates the title page of this book is of Aztec origin. It is a symbol of the polar black sun and could also be found on a piece of furniture in the Reich Chancellery. Hitler had placed it there, knowing that it would become the symbol of the Fourth Reich, which will come about on an alternate Earth regenerated by Wakantanka, the Thunderbird, after its victory against the powers of evil and darkness, spiritual sense. And the final avatar of the Führer will return mounted on the eagle of another light, which is the Thunderbird. One says that the morning star is Lucifer and that it also is Quetzalcoatl, the most beautiful light, the crown of the Grail. Its day is Friday, its number is 13. Because it is an artificial sun, in truth it is a doorway to the black sun. From this pathway, the messages of the green ray, as well as beings from other universes, the Divyas, the Siddhas, and the Vimanas, arrive into our plane of manifestation. From this pathway the Führer came, embodied for a short time, and through which he will return. It is also through that door that my master has departed and through which he still communicates with me. It is the middle window of the Incas, the Huiracocha and Mama Oclo, and also the world of Amor, where my eternal Amada waits for me. In this account, Serrano describes a post-war visit, date unknown, that he made with several companions to the Wewelsburg, a Renaissance castle located in the Paderborn district of the Alm Valley, North Rhine-Westphalia in Germany. In 1934, it was purchased by Reichsfuhrer SS Heinrich Himmler and renovated with plans to expand it into the main SS headquarters. For a description of the castle's architectural details relevant to Serrano's account, see Chapter 1. So I'm just kind of reading, not to interrupt, but these sections of text which are quotes from different parts of the text. So they're kind of jumping around. With my German and Swiss comrades, we entered the North Tower of Initiation. We first descended into the underground crypt, also referred to as vault or Valhalla, where we waited for another comrade from Hamburg. They were accompanied by their wives. It is this circular vaulted enclosure with its nearly perfect acoustics which transforms any sound arriving from the outside into music. 12 small stone pillars, shaped like rhombi, follow the curve of the wall. Behind them, unknown emblems and symbols must have existed. There, the remains of 12 SS initiates would repose. In the ceiling of the vault appears the left-handed swastika carved into the stone, composed of the Sieg rune, the emblem of the SS. In the center of the floor of that underground vault there is another circle, a hollowed-out space where something must have existed or where the fire burned. Or perhaps the supreme warrior priest of the Black Order would halt there in order to recite the runic mantras which, in that enclosure of magical resonances, were transformed into the music of the purified runes that was transmitted to the black sun and through it to the green ray, the final residence of the most exalted guides of esoteric Hitlerism. It is that center which we entered in turn. The first to go was a German comrade and his wife. They both stood motionless, face to face, with their bodies almost touching. They raised their arms overhead and began to emit a flowing sound which became higher pitched and deeper as it filled the enclosure, ascending toward the left-handed sign of the swastika, where it rotated in such a manner as to enable them to disintegrate this plane of existence, to perhaps reach another universe, leaving by means of the mysterious vortex, by the maelstrom of the swastika of the return, of that black sun which reintegrates us into the non-existence of the green ray. There is here the other anti-gravitational science, that of the Hiranyagarbha Kabda, the Orphean Kabbalah of runic mantras. In this enclosure, magically constructed according to numerological science and Hyperborean Aryan mathematics, those few among the SS possessing a deep knowledge of Hermeticism disintegrated their physical bodies and materialized their astral body, the Eidolon, the Linga Sarira. I enter into that central space along with a Swiss comrade descended from a family of ancient Germanic origin possessing a heritage of initiation. A former soldier, he stood alongside the Germans and fought against the Bolsheviks on the Eastern Front as a member of the Cossack divisions under German General von Panwitz. I also raise my arms in the Aryan gesture of invocation and recite a melopeia that projects from the depths of the chakra manipura from the solar plexus. Something moves in the air like a dull, tolerant spirit, revived from an induced slumber. It provides me with a sign of hope and joy. I enter this space without company and also raise my arms in the sign of the man rune, though extending only 4 of my fingers. 2 fingers of each hand in the salute of the order, invoking my masters, to the Brahmins, reciting mantras of greeting, so that they also came to meet here, as in the time of the Great War, with the most exalted guides of esoteric Hitlerism, to continue supporting our Führer Adolf Hitler in his open combat against the forces of the dark, the Lord of the Shadows, and his acolytes on the planet. And they came, and thus we could recreate a vortex of forces that will make possible the return of the ancient glory and the triumph of the last battalion with Wotan Kalki and his wild hunt. Having completed this rite, we ascended to the first level of the tower to find ourselves in another circular hall, the Obergruppenführer's Hall, Upper Group Leaders Hall, with 12 columns united by arches and 12 windows, one behind each column. Editor, actually between each column. The floor was marble with the pattern of a left-handed swastika composed of the Sieg rune in the center. It is possible that a round stone or marble table was located here in order to host 12 SS knights. At one end, as part of a door lintel supported by strong pillars, hung an enormous rectangular stone. Nothing has been recorded about it up until today. What did it signify? Was it perhaps a replica of the Stone of the Grail, or was it a worn block of the Externsteine? I can also imagine that the walls of this circular hall were hung with emblems, mandalas, runes, and magical paintings, signs full of esoteric meaning. The SS initiation was a mysterious Hyperborean Nordic Occidental yoga. It was directed to wake up the minne, the nostalgia for Hyperborea in the blood of the Vira, who is transmuted into the Divya, into the Sonnenmensch, into the total man, beyond all prejudice and moral limitations, surpassing the pairs of opposites and Gnostic dualism. The formulas for arousing the memory, the nostalgia, and the voice to recover the Vril Vraja, meet in the runic Kabbalah and the Orphean mantras and sounds. In the Hiranyagarbha Kabda, or Chabda, in the letters, the German Book of the Three Mothers, or Three Norns. In that underground musical vault in the North Tower of Wewelsburg, where with my comrades we pronounce evocative mantras and consecrated sentences, the subtle acoustic resonance, introduced through the skin, reaches the blood, and its sharp vibration, their music of Beyond the Spheres, woke up the canto called Minnesang. In the center of the vault, old Nordic mantras in Wotan's runic language were pronounced by the SS soldiers, causing the swastika there to turn with such speed that a space opened through which descended a ray of the morning star, like the falling autumn petals of the golden sun, intersecting with the newly resurrected black sun of the swastika, the motherland born in the faraway place with its memory of the green ray. This accomplishment opens the third eye, transforming it into a very distant voice, in the beginning almost lost in the universe without being glimpsed or dreamt of, then erupting like an order with a snap of very short sentences. It was the voice that the Führer had listened to since childhood, and that Rudolf Hess had awoken in the Thule Gesellschaft, the language of the tree, of the wind in the canopy of the trees that Hitler listened to in the forests of Linz and Berchtesgaden. Then, in the floor immediately above, in the great circular hall of 12 marble columns, editor, the Obergruppenführershall, of 12 windows, where an enormous stone hung above the lintel of a door, like a piece of the column from the Chastel Marveille, taken either from the sacred mountain of Berchtesgaden or from a block of the Extersteine. The 12 SS soldiers, the Einherjar, sat at a round table dressed in the tunics of ancient Nordic heroes, and, just like the initiated soldiers of Frederick II of Hohenstaufen at Castel del Monte, they drank from crystal glasses bearing the double Sieg rune of victory, of the twice-born ones, of the horsemen of the two swords, of the combatants of the two worlds, of the liquor of eternal life, of the blue blood of Hyperborea, Soma, mead, ambrosia, Ahoma, amrita, Karanavari, causal water, Jnana Mrita, the water of wisdom. It was the ceremony of the Minetrinken, with the liquor of immortality filling to the brim the green crystal glasses of the Grail, the true blood, the Sangreal. The day will come when, in the unfinished highest level of the North Tower at Wewelsburg, there must preside a king of the Grail, a monarch, warrior, priest, in the dangerous seat, the number 13, from where will be issued the order to commence the definitive offensive against the extraterrestrial Lord of the Darkness, Jehovah, and his galactic and planetary legions. In order to make this possible, from up above, from seat number 13, there must descend on the soldiers of the Round Table the Sieg and Hagal runes, as well as the 8-pointed star, because only the total man, the solar man, possesses the strength to fight the definitive battle. Excerpt from Serrano's La Resurrección del Héroe. In this context, it may be instructive to recall that the word hero comes from the ancient Greek heros, meaning a demigod, watcher, and protector. The ultimate goal of the war undertaken here, with the entrance of the god soldiers, the Divyas and the Viras, in the universe of the demiurge, is symbolized by the star of Venus, that of the Asen, the Phrygians, and the Araucanos. The absolute man as an individual, united with his Ella, united in the separation El-Ella and El-Layel, in my own terminology. This is because both entrance into and emergence out of this universe is accomplished through Venus, the star of the morning and of the afternoon, which is already a double Hagal rune, a double star, an absolute man and woman, 2 stars in one, the double star of Amor, Baphomet, Quetzalcoatl, Abraxas. In that manner, one goes toward the black sun, which transports us, sucks us, to the non-existence of the green ray, the universe of the absolute man and woman, that non-existent flower. Excerpts from Manu, Por el hombre que vendrá, 1991. But the total man, the superman, the sun-man, the man-son of Hitlerism is a hero who, thanks to initiatory runic practices and to signs even more ancient than the runes, rediscovered by Wotan in the Yggdrasil tree, and thanks to the implosive science of Amor, to the Minnesingers, to the Armanen, he has been able to recover his Ella, to reintegrate it into his being. At the same time, he has encountered the Ella of Ella El in the form of the Absolute Woman, the Valkyrie, and the Amado. It is thus possible for him to resurrect the body, immortalizing it in the red matter of Vajra. To personalize himself in this way, he has given a face to its soul, the face of loved. It has stopped being yo, small and limiting, vacillating. It ceases its transmutation in nos. Also, by a magical process inexplicable to reason, he will have donated personality to the person, hoping that it remained with him as the edge of a source. And without Ella being fused within him, he will have reclaimed it outside and within itself, united and separated forever. Thus it will be the total man, absolute, in front of that God. The ecstasy that accompanies this magic is not the samadhi that fuses and loses, but the tantric kaivalya that separates. He is not a saint, but rather a magician. Kaivalya comes from Kundalini, the tantric kaula, its name in Sanskrit, of the Hyperborean language, and is the igneous serpent, is the fiery blood of the Asen and the Vanen, recovered by the Vira, revived by the hero, for the Aryan, the one who has been born twice. They have recovered the power of Odin, the Odal rune, in the memory of that blood, so that doubt and the hesitation between the opposed sides has expired, reaching artificial security through, if it can be said, an indestructible absolute archetype. An indestructible will, Shuddhi Buddhish Vabhava. Shuddhi Buddhish Vabhava, and the possession of the archetype, not possession by an archetype. He that has made it possible for the hero to reopen that window in the top of his skull beyond the chakra sahasrara, shunya, the emptiness, the black sun, the black hole, and to redeem the aeon of Saturn, to release Prometheus by means of a work of Hercules with the mantra Saham, which means I am too, and to depart toward El Nos with the mantra Hamsa, you are yo. The biological robot, the demiurge, has been defeated from within by the hero, by the Vira, by the Hitler initiate, whose nature has been transformed by a magical idealism in which they believed in Novalis and the old Germanic Minnesingers. The SS magician has transformed himself without serious harm by allowing a ray to explode forth from his head. The hero that has reopened the spiritual gland, that enabler, that third eye of the giant Polyphemo, that allows him to leave and to enter, to disintegrate and to reintegrate, to live simultaneously in several worlds, to be a tulku, a jivan mukti, a bodhisattva, and, if one wishes, an avatar. As Rudolf Hess was both with the Führer and against the Führer, because he has fulfilled the mission that El entrusted to him. The true mission, the true combat, the abyss is crossed on a thread that he himself held. This is the war of esoteric Hitlerism. In the low sky, in the demiurgic zodiac, the drama of the ancestral light occurs, largely of the black sun, the Sandur, and the swastika begins to rotate in a clockwise direction, as has been stated, directing the exodus of Asen and the Vanen from the paradise of Asgard, from that Paradesha. The terrestrial Midgard is surrounded by the ice of death. The crucifixion of Balder on the tree of the zodiac, the Tierkreis, turns 8 or 10,000 years AC in the constellation of Aries, being crossed by the dart of the centaur in Sagittarius. Two thieves, Mars and Saturn, in Pisces, corruptions of Tyr, Teus, and Surtur, are seen next to the zodiacal tree of the crucifixion. The awakening of the inner woman, Kundalini, occurs in the middle of a storm that submerges the until then visible and active continents with a momentary annihilation of the rational and conscious I. This event is represented in alchemy by the nigredo, the dark operation, where the roots of visible light disappears in the same manner that the black holes of galaxies swallow the drops of milk of Hera, the Milky Way. It is the black sun through which the hero initiate will have to pass. In the Nordic Christianity of Wotan, it corresponds to the crucifixion of Balder on the Hagal rune and up to his resurrection on the 9th day. It is the figure that illustrates the cover of this book. In esoteric Hitlerism, it is symbolized by the Führer's disappearance in the flames of the bunker and his reappearance in the Antarctic oasis. But destiny advances, the archetype is incarnated, and nothing can move against El. The Cathar wheel of Grotti grinds slowly but surely. The head of Baldur Hitler had already entered into Aquarius in 1933, and in 1945 he fulfilled the grand sacrifice of the bunker and the triumph of the Avatar. Then Baldur descended to Muspelheim, hell, the hollow earth, soon transformed into the hell of the Christians, traveling to its deepest roots in order to begin to promote the new light and the new earth. Because for a tree to reach the apex of the sky, it must first delve to the most profound depths with its roots. The mystery of the light of the black sun wants that the divine hero, hanging on the cosmic tree of the crucifixion, dies and is resurrected. Only as the earth lay dying and all men, animals, plants, and rocks have cried their last tears and asked in their voices for the return, will we witness the return of the divine luminous face of the man-God. Only then will our Führer, Adolf Hitler, along with the resurrected Asen, again immortal, enter into the final battle with their wild hunt in the age of iron, in the Kali Yuga, in the Ragnarok, or twilight of the gods, that will annihilate the golem and will save the heroes, the Viras. Asgard and Midgard will be restored. The dark and satanic age of Pisces will have come to its end. And in that Bolson, that is the Yuga of the hero, some Viras will have been immortalized with the Gibor rune and the Sieg rune, and by the means of magical love will leave the wheel of eternal return. For they, both male and female, will find the man-god, Adolf Hitler, beyond the stars. All others will have to return to the terrestrial Hyperborea, the golden age, and the man that comes. Green ray. Beyond the black sun of the black holes appears the green ray, a situation impossible to explain, non-existent to our world, but more real than all reality. In that world reside the highest guides, inspiring and sustaining esoteric Hitlerism. There also sometimes Adolf Hitler is able to return, though we see it not and know it not. Nevertheless, from there will come the final avatar with his last battalion to fight the last battle and destroy his enemies. The green ray is beyond everything. It is there for those who are able to cross through the implosion of the black sun with its retrograde swastika that appears as a green ray. Black sun. Encountered behind the golden sun that visibly illuminates us is the sun of Hitlerism, which also represents both the retrograde and clockwise forms of the swastika, since that is the pathway to enter and leave a non-demiurgic world. They would penetrate this gate via UFOs and also the famous astral tube of initiation. The retrograde and clockwise swastikas conform to the Cathar wheel, or the mill of Wotan, that is rotated by the three Norns. That wheel activates the transcendent life of the Aryans, which does not end here. Excerpt from Los ovnis de Hitler contra el nuevo orden mundial. The black sun is, for its believers, an inexhaustible source. That light has shone, now shines, and will shine for all eternity, but to the human eye it is imperceptible. Even so, it exists, just as the visible sun shines and illuminates externally. The black sun shines and illuminates the interior of some men. The arrival of this divine light to us accordingly indoctrinates the esoteric aspect of the National Socialist cosmovision. Excerpt from Memorias de él y yo, Volume 2, 1997. The legend tells us that when the old sun disappeared and the new sun illuminated the world, the giants inhabiting the earth sank within the mountains, taking refuge there, hoping for the disappearance of this new sun and the appearance of another one, perhaps the resurrected old sun, the spiritual black sun. And with this change, the man-god recovers the lost power, and the kingdom of the giants returns. Excerpt from Memorias de él y yo, Volume 4, 1999. O black sun, absorb me into your beguiling whirlwind, transport me in your left-handed light, faster than the light of the golden sun, toward the non-existence of the green ray, wherein dwell the teachers of my teacher and the highest guides of esoteric Hitlerism. Excerpt from Foreword to McVan's Temple of Wotan, Holy Book of the Aryan Tribes, 2000. It was the German Schutzstaffel who, without the need to declare it, caused the resurgence of the path of the Externsteine, the great spear extended from Wuhlsberg to the sacred stones of Westphalia, symbolizing the route of return. In the great gathering hall of this castle, the Armanenschaft initiation, where the symbol of the black sun was inlaid in the floor, there hung from the ceiling, in suspended animation over one of the portals, a great stone from the legendary temple of the Externsteine. Excerpt from The Son of the Widower, 2003. Nevertheless, the Islamic Arabs are prepared to overcome the great crisis, since they have maintained a secret initiatory sect to keep the mystery of the Kaaba and the initiation of the black sun of the black stone that completes the occult nexus with esoteric Hitlerism before, during, and after the final Great War. The left-handed swastika that returns in an opposite direction to the rotation of the Earth and indicates a return to the polar hyperborea reveals that it is to overcome the involution of the man, to facilitate the recovery of the Superman, the total man, the man-god, the Divya of our origins. It is also the swastika of the Bon of pre-Buddhist Tibet. SS means Schwarzasonnen, Schwarzesteiner, the black sun of the Tibetans and the Hyperboreans, of the Ainos and the black stone of the Kaaba. In the temple castle of Wewelsburg, there existed a select group of initiates who practiced a secret Western yoga and who were destined to reclaim the Superman, the total man, with his two active cerebral hemispheres. I was in the underground enclosure of Wewelsburg with 12 columnar stone seats around a circular space destined for the fire that ascends overhead and culminates in a left-handed swastika, the black sun, the astral tube, through which must exit the astral one, the son of the man, the one who is able to solemnly resuscitate the physical body in the soldier's grave, the SS graves with the man rune, the rune of life, and to populate the polar Hyperborea again, in New Schwabenland, the Hitlerite base in Queen Maud Land along the Weddell Sea, Antarctica. The Supermen depart therefrom and travel to Venus and Aldebaran in their UFOs or Vimanas, that is to say, in their perfect and materialized astral bodies, molding and unmolding themselves at will with indestructible, immortal Vraja. And the underground temple enclosure of Wewelsburg was a reproduction of the solar temple of the Black Sun, of the first Kaaba, the pre-Islamic and pre-Vedic one, the extraterrestrial one. Excerpt from Maya, Reality is an Illusion, 2005. For the truth is that Hitler did not die, and if he does die, he will also revive on the 3rd or the 9th day, and go away to Antarctica, to New Schwabenland, and from there then to the Moon, Mars, and Venus, where he now is and always has been, awaiting the exact time of his next return in the Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods, when the gods finally die. He will return with Wotan Kalki on a white horse to judge. And that's the end. The rest is just footnotes, and I'm sorry to say, I have no idea who wrote this or who compiled it and is commenting on it. I have this PDF that I downloaded, and it just doesn't give a name. I'm just looking through the opening footnotes, and there's nothing. So I'm sorry about that, but I hope you enjoyed the reading of Miguel Serrano and the Black Sun. There are a lot of very interesting footnotes that I did not read. I only read the main text. But yeah, let me know if you want me to read those footnotes. It was pretty interesting. So anyway, read some more from Esoteric Hitlerism in the near future. See you next time.